for the beautiful artworks that you contributed to the exhibition. So the topic of our exhibition is human body in contemporary art. And it's, can I have the clicker, by the way? I'm just going to do like a small intro because we're filming this for then to just have some memory of what was going on today and what we were talking about. And so, yeah, we're talking about the body, contemporary art, and it seems like a very broad topic at the get-go, because, yeah, sure, body in art, didn't we always have it, but that's exactly what fascinated me in the first place, because actually human figure entered humanity as soon as people could basically draw or want to express themselves. So as early as the prehistoric caves, we see images of people. And we know that in ancient Greece and Rome, there was this canon of art, what we were supposed to depict in art. These very idealized shapes of predominantly male human bodies. Female figure wasn't probably so much interesting to the artists in ancient Greece and Rome for some reason or another. But we see these statues that are, of course, of outstanding craftsmanship, and we cannot argue that. And like here on the slide, I put, well, we can't see this slide in its entirety, but it's Linkan and his sons. And this sculpture has been discovered in the early 16th century. It's dated to the 2nd century BC, and it became kind of the unanimous opinion of the art world at that time that this is kind of like a canon of art. This is what art should strive towards, because the mastery of depicting the human body, the mastery of depicting the emotion is all here. And then throughout the history of art, and I'm apologizing, I'm just an art historian, so I'm like seeing the world through art historical kind of connotations. But through the history of art, when we came to the 1950s and the era of abstract expressionism, this particular artwork was contested. And famous art critic Clement Greenberg, he was saying that we need a new Lacan because this one doesn't speak to us anymore. Why it doesn't speak to us? Because we live in a different era, we live in a different society, we're preoccupied with completely different matters. So seeing this scene from a mythology doesn't really give us much, and it doesn't really speak to us either. And so Greenberg's kind of answer to departing from this Lacan was abstraction. And we can see here, like Giorgio's Venus, just circling a little bit back to like the art history and the line, like the inheritance. From ancient Greek and Rome, we had then the era of Renaissance. Renaissance artists looked back, like they departed from the Dark Ages, and they looked back at ancient Greece, and they were like, "Whoa, this is beautiful. Let's revive that." But for some reason, again, or another, then female nude figure kind of started to dominate the scene, and it's been doing that for several centuries. And going back to Greenberg and his idea that we should stop depicting humans, we should stop really, we should find a new Lacan. Here we have a painting of William de Kooning, who was one of the main participants of the New York School in the 1950s, who still depicted human figure, and he was so his contemporaries were saying like, William, what the heck? We are doing abstraction here. We're departing from all narrative. You can't even be called abstract impressions. However, he said, no, this is my form of abstraction, but it still has a human form in it. And so, well, my point is, I guess, is that contemporary artists are finding new ways of going about human figure. Why is human figure still in art? Of course, human form, our body, is the way we process our identity. This is the main vehicle through which we identify ourselves. If we want to contest some societal norms, or we want to conform those societal norms, we can alter our physical body. If we want to make a statement or go against societal norms, we can again work through our body to do that. And what I'm observing in contemporary art today, that human form is still there, but the nude, the perfection that we saw in ancient Rome and ancient Greece, this perfect body, kind of went away from fine art, and we see it still, but more in commercial photography. But in fine art, artists are not interested anymore in the ideal form. And for example, Jenny Saville, who is more interested in this possibility of aesthetic representation of just human mass, human material, right? And the perfection of the human body that is not going away because we are not depicting it. Or Mark Quinn, who is challenging the norms of body and depicting people with disability. Mark Quinn said that once he was in a museum, again he was in Louvre or some museum that has an ancient art collection, and he was looking at all these ancient Greek sculptures where, of course, every of them misses a leg or an arm, and he said, I was observing people looking with adoration at these sculptures, but if they saw in real life a person missing an arm or a leg, this would probably bring about a situation of discomfort, or people don't really know how to go about these things. And so he takes these models with disabilities or missing limbs, and some of them are Olympic champions. It doesn't mean that they are less in any way, but he says, let's look in the reality that surrounds us today. And of course, performance art, where we are again confronted with this humanly bodily images, and the way that identities such as trans identity and queer identity are also becoming talked about and contested, and artists make their own art and their own body a platform for that. So that's a bit long, so we're not gonna talk about all of that. We're gonna talk with you. And so my main question is, I guess, and first of all, I want to present the artist, which I did not in the beginning. Sorry about that. All the day of technical difficulties. And 2 nights of installation of exhibition. And by the way, we have a big exhibition opening on the 4th floor at 4 p.m. And then there will be a performance art, and there will be a big multimedia installation also launching, and a solo show of Naeem here is going to be launching today. So we have a full day of art here. And here with me are 3 amazing, outstanding artists who present their work today. As Linkan, an artist from Jakarta, Naeem, artist from Sri Lanka, and Irene, artist from Holland. So we have like a full spectrum, a very multinational crowd. And so guys, I guess the question for you, why human figure? How do you go about this subject in your art, and what factors come into play when you create your art? Any societal factors, any personal factors that come into play when you pick other humans or imaginary humans in your artwork?
Okay. For me, of course, like my background is not from the Western culture. I see it as a reminder, because like people nowadays, when they see Indonesia, and they think like, oh, Indonesia people, we're more like reserved, like we mostly cover our body and everything. And I think it's more like a reminder how it started back then. Fine art in Indonesia is considered very new, you know, because like art, like sculpture and everything is part of our daily life. It's part of our culture, you know, and it's more like artifact. depiction art in Indonesia. So also I think why I pick like human figures, especially women, because I only paint women, because I want to remind the Indonesian society again where did we come from. When women's body or like bodies in general, they were not very taboo back then, you know, and then how to say it, like for example, we take an example in Bali, they were not focusing on the top part and everything, you know, and then since like tourism and everyone came here and then we're focused on that because that's what was happening in the Western world. And then we shifting, forgetting about like our background, how this bottom part is actually a secret part in our body, and this is just like a normal part that fit kids, you know, like it's nothing taboo about it. That's the reason why I bring this up, because you know, like in the modern society, like on our daily basis, like women, Indonesian women, they got like lots of like critics from people, how we dress up, how we behave, you know, like anything that relates to our body, and that's really sad because we're forgetting about our ideology and background. So I think I choose to paint like women figures here, so I can, I don't want to say to fight back, but more like, you know, to speak up about how society treats us as human, not only from the physical. You know, I think that's so.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, because when, and even I just realized that in my little intro presentation, I kind of dismissed and or unconsciously forgot to mention. But of course, we are talking about different art histories. There isn't just one. And definitely it is a big issue in the art world right now, that we're talking about modernism, and we're talking about all these eras, and then in the non-Western world there were different type of modernism and different type of issues. And of course the depiction of female body, especially like in a body in general, but of a female body especially, in the non-Western world, it's had its completely own spectrum of topics and issues. So that's a great point.
And also, like, you know, like there was like a book like about like Indonesian art, about, you know, about women artists and then about men artists, and they just like, you know, and the women is supposed to be the objects. They don't have to be the art. So that's the reason why I bring the body as an artist myself.
I think for me also it's very similar, because I have my Asian country to blue and conservative. So with my work I try to make one. Why I do that is because I feel like there's a certain point when your form is praised in terms of women, female content. And by doing so, I feel like the female form pushed out the female form in a certain way. So I'm trying to bring that back, especially in a conservative country. They don't respect the human form. Like if you see someone shirtless in Sri Lanka, anyway, they tell them to put a shirt on, something like that. So my work is also to that, to push, to make it normal. Okay. And why I choose female form is because me personally, I'm attracted to female form. And I'm very inspired by real designs, inspired by Michelangelo, stone statues, because they fundamentally are masterpieces. Of course, it's changed now, what is the names, but I still like to refer back to how one's work. And using that to try to, well, not really actively, but trying to push holy lifestyle, more of accepting the environment to what exists in Asia.
Thank you, Naeem.
don't depict the whole body. I depict mostly faces, but I choose to cover the faces and tell a story in the head. I sense energies with people, and I think there's many untold stories. There's a disbalance in the world, and I feel I want to bring the feminine back. And the feminine for me stands for flow, for nature, for love, for compassion, self-love. I feel the world is a lot focused on assets and the look on the outside. Wow, I think it's time to create the inner movement from inside, and yeah, to craft more time doing nothing, to feel what's going on the end. And my art has a lot of color, but a lot of fun elements in it. I feel it's a high vibration energy in it, and yeah, it's up to the viewer what message they get out of it. I'm a reader, which I only discovered after a couple of years, so I was not really sure why I was making the art that I did. But slowly and surely I was seeing, I'm telling stories. And my mission is both creating art, but also lifting humanity back to the beautiful self. That's behind my art. But it's nice that we all share the feminine energy in art. So obviously somehow we all pick up on that, on the lack of it, I guess.
Thank you, Irene. Your artworks are truly radiant with positive energy, I must admit, and everyone is invited, of course, at 4 o'clock. We're opening the big exhibition on the fourth floor, and we will have a pleasure of seeing all of the artworks of these artists. But you mentioned something very interesting, that you've noticed a healing quality to your art. Do you feel it's healing, you're healing also through when you're in the process of making work? And do you think that, do you expect, is there any expectation what you would like to happen in the viewer's realm when they witness your work?
I think my healing is more the work that I've done for myself. So what I have quite some stories to tell about my life. It's quite an interesting life. I think similar to yours. But yeah, for me it's about the vibration. So I think everybody, when there's an exchange of energy, you might not directly know in an instant when you pass by, but every object is energy, and energy moves and can shift people in various ways. And I think when I create art, I channel. Like, I'm also part of a mental health art tournament where I depict 10 famous people, and they all share an interview story about what happened to them. And while I was creating them, symbols came, and they recognized them. They said, "Oh my God, how do you know that?" So I think unconsciously, it's in it, and I think if people are captured by it, then for sure there is also an exchange of which I expect is an upgrade for them.
Wonderful. I think that it's fair to say that we all heal through art, and artists are our healers in one way or another. Maybe it can be straightforward as an exchange of energy, and it can be less straightforward by the means of just basically healing humanity, because we're raising important questions here, like all of the three of you and the rest of the artists in the exhibition, just addressing the issues that maybe are not talked about, just making them more visible, making the invisible visible, making things that are not necessarily something that we encounter every day. It doesn't mean that they don't exist, and when we come to see art, that's when we have an opportunity to kind of broaden our mind and see things that are not a part of our daily life. Otherwise, we don't really evolve. So that's very important part to guys are playing. Another question I wanted to ask, in terms of circling back to the human body in art, and of course when we're talking about human body, inevitably we're thinking about the nude, although it can be also dressed people, but when we're talking about the body, like our body, the way we see it in our birth costume, as they say, is the nude. And of course, in a non-Western world especially, depiction of nude can come with certain complexities. So I just wanted to maybe ask you to share your opinion about the censorship or the provocation or any other like internal moments that come with taking a risk and depicting our body in society.
That's all we know. Like Indonesia is kind of hard to presenting like new paintings because of the